would share with library workers who may face similar challenges?
Sure. Earlier this year, in January, I had a report of a challenge to a young adult teen title called Genderqueer, and we already had in place a policy and a procedure and a form for people to fill out if they wanted to question or ask for review of a title that was in the library collection. And we've done training over the years with my staff, so they were all familiar with it. And some of my best staff were on duty when the challenger came in, and came in specifically looking for this particular title. And then went and found it on the shelf and then brought it to the attention of my staff person and essentially confronted my staff person very vigorously about the nature of this book and how she viewed it as being inappropriate. It's pornography and it should be removed from the library. And so my staff they did what they were supposed to. They were well trained. It's like, thank you. They listened. They took down her information, they gave her the form, and they told her that they would let me know, the library director, that the challenge had been made and that there is a process, and someone would follow up with her and go through it, which is what we did. And like Tom said, you follow the process and you honor the process. And my staff learned, I think, as we went through this first challenge, that the process really made a big difference. I actually spoke to the woman who made the challenge and went over the process with her in detail on the phone. It was a very interesting conversation. She admitted in the course of the conversation that she was not a library card holder. She lived in our city, but she did not have a library card. She specifically came in that day looking for this title because a group on social media had highlighted this as one of those titles that you should go and challenge and get out of your library. So we had an interesting conversation, and I talked about, we're in Huntington Beach, California. It's a big city. We're 200,000 people, 6 miles of beach. We're not far from Los Angeles. Orange County, California has traditionally been a little bit less liberal than the rest of California, but our community is changing, and the diversity here is increasing. And in fact, it's one of our initiatives that we were starting to talk about really getting into is equity, diversity, and inclusion for our collection. And I have a lot of new staff members that are on board that we've been working with to make sure that that's part of our collection development policy, practice, and what we offer to the community. And so we have more titles that represent everybody. And one of the things that I often use when I talk to people who express concerns about things, and what I used in the conversation with this first challenger was one of my favorite statements is that if there isn't something in the collection that offends you, I'm not doing my job. Because the collection and the library does belong to everyone, all opinions, everybody in the community. There are things in the collection that I find offensive, but they're in the collection because they represent our community. Someone in our community relates to that. So the same thing works the other way. If you don't agree with something, just because you don't agree with it doesn't mean that somebody else doesn't need it or want it. It's important, and it's important to represent everyone. So we knew the person, this first challenger, had come in because she'd been on social media and involved with the group. So I was kind of anticipating what happened to Tom. I was like, this isn't good. I have a new city manager, so I talked to him about it. I said, just so you know, had this person come in, going through the process, sending her a letter, and he was like, okay, that's great, do it, so I was very pleased that he understood kind of, we have a process, this is what we do. So I was all geared up. And then after nothing came of that. But I reported it to the Office of Intellectual Freedom because it was a challenge that And I was kind of like, okay, I don't know. More might be coming. And I was right. In about a month, a second challenge came. And this time it was for This Day in June, which is a wonderful picture book about the Pride Parade in San Francisco. It's done in rhyme, and the artwork is bright and it's happy, and it's totally innocent and fun and no way inappropriate for kids. And another parent came in and spoke to one of my young staff, my new teen librarian, who is not that far removed from library school and is all, was definitely all into increasing the diversity in our collection. And she had the process and had been trained, so she knew what to say and how to react. And we went through the process again. And then I spent a great deal of time with my new librarian, reassuring her that she'd done exactly what she was supposed to have done. She said what she was supposed to have said. The individual in question that was challenging this book clearly had issue with one page. There's a page where a few characters in the book were kissing. You really can't tell who's kissing who. But obviously she felt that this was, as she put it in her complaint, forcing this lifestyle on children. So again, we went through the process, reassured staff, training, told my city manager, hey, we started monitoring social media fairly closely. Huntington Beach can be challenging in terms of it's an active community. There are lots of people that are engaged on social media, on community platforms, and things can go off very quickly. And I was anticipating that this would happen, but I think our timing was good. Other things kind of pushed it out of the storyline, and there really was no. After that, we didn't have another challenge. But the process, again, really helped us. Staff knew what to do. I provided support, and we had talked about the first challenge. So when the second challenge came around, everybody was kind of geared and ready and looking and aware and thinking, okay, what's going to happen next? We should be prepared for the next stage. And so we had all of this lined up, and I talked to the Office of Intellectual Freedom. I talked to Kristen, and I'd gotten some additional supporting material, and so we were all ready. And apparently, our letters, which relied heavily on what's available from the OIF, worked. I didn't hear anything back from either of our complainers, and so far we haven't had any additional issues. And social media stayed relatively quiet. So I was very happy about that. And very pleasantly surprised, honestly. So it really does help to have your staff trained and have a process and have policies. And then to talk to OIF. Kristen was great. And it was good to know that we weren't alone in having to deal with this, that this was a trend nationwide. And then, of course, with the bills that came afterwards, it was like, And I'm also the secretary of the California Library Association, which is, a state-affiliated association with ALA. And all of my colleagues, I shared the information with my colleagues about this, and that this was happening in Huntington Beach, so that they could all be aware. And so far, California, we're a little bit, I think, it's less likely to happen in some of our communities. But so far, we've got a good network, and so far nothing's happened at the state level or the local level beyond this round of complaints that I received.